Okay, so the recording has started. Welcome to the NPTEL session, and as I was saying that this will be a relatively shorter session compared to what has been in the past few weeks, and this is because today I won't be discussing some of the MCQs from the previous year's questions which I was doing in the last sessions, and this is because I have not been able to access the previous year's account due to some problems at the end of NPTEL. So what I'll try to do is I will try to discuss some of the coding assignments which has been which I was able to access, and I will try to cover the MCQs in the next session that we will be having. Okay, so on that note, we can start. So this this is week 5, and today we will be discussing mostly things related to loops, and most of the coding assignments is based on that. So I will be specifically discussing about 3 different codes, which includes 3 different kinds of loops, and this is just to get you a brief idea of what we want to do. Okay, so and probably we will also discuss some of the variations of the code that we will be doing. And at this point, if you all have any questions regarding any of the things that we have covered in the previous sessions, then please feel free to ask me, and I would be happy to answer those questions as well. So you can either unmute yourself and ask, or you can put it on the chat box, which I will be occasionally checking while during this entire session, right? So let me also start by sharing my screen. Okay, so I have shared my screen, and as you can see, I have my VS Code in here just for where I'll be doing most of the coding, and we can now get started and talk a little bit about these assignments. But before I get started, I just want to take a pause and ask if any of you have any questions, then please feel free to ask and put it in the chat. I'll be waiting for 1 minute or around about 1 minute, and then we can start. Okay, so I think since no one has posted anything, I guess there are no doubts regarding the previous session, so we can get started right away. Let's see. So this is the first problem. Let's see what the problem is about. So this says write a C program to check whether a given number n can be expressed as a power of 2. So, right. For example, let's say if you have 8, then obviously you can express it as a power of 2. So it's 2 cubed, which is 8. However, if you have something like a 9 or 10, you cannot express it as a power of 2. Right. So that's the question. So let's try to code this up, and then there will be some test cases where we will be testing these to check whether the code is working or not. So this is like a simple hello world program which I will be modifying for this specific case, right? So first, let me take the number. So int n. So this is the number that I will be taking in from the user, and int val is equals to 2. So this is basically the value which we are going to check. So now let's take the print. So printf. So you'll put in enter a number. So this is going to take in the number, and I am going to do a scanf. So this is going to just take the number from the user. I think we have already covered this over and over in the previous session. So I think now is the time when you are almost pretty familiar with what's happening in here. And then the next part, what we are going to do is now we are going to test whether the number that you have entered is divisible by 2 or not. So for that, I'll do while. So this is a while loop, and then you have the number, right, which you are taking in. So let's call that num and not equals to 1, right? So now what I'm going to do is start the while loop and go in here, and inside this we will do a modulus, because like now we are dividing by 10, right? So now what I'm going to do is while num percentage val, this is the modulus operator, num percentage val, let's see, while we close the bracket, num percent L not equals to 0, right? Then we will put a flag. So I'll have a flag which I am calling it as this flag. I will set it equals to 1, right? So this is the flag which is sorry, not equals to 0. So I missed the 0 in here, and I'll have an int flag in here. So int flag. So this is sorry, int flag in here. And this is just the test. And now what I'm doing is that if the number which I'm taking it's not equals to 1, so I'm going in here, and so let's see. So I'll put, by default I'll set flag, keep flag as 0, and now I'm saying that if flag is not equals to 0, then that would mean that the number is not divisible. So that is going to mean that this is a number which is not cannot be expressed as a power, and then hence the flag gets set to 1, otherwise the flag remains 0, right? And then what I'm going to do is num by val. So I'm going to divide the number by the val itself, right? And this will keep on happening. So what is now I'm doing is that I'm keep on dividing this by 2 unless I hit 1. So this is the while loop, which is in line, starts from line 9, and this just keeps on looping, divide the number continuously by 2 and until the value is 1, right? And whenever the value is 1, what happens is it just breaks out of this loop, and it always checks after dividing that whatever number that is left behind, whether it is divisible or not, right? So now if I come in here, then I'll do that if flag equals to 0, right? So now this is going to say that it can be expressed as a power of 2. So what I'll do is printf number percentage d can be expressed as a power of percent d, so percent num and percent val, right? So this is, we are going to print, else we will do that the number cannot be expressed as a power of 2, right? And then we are going to return. So this is the if statement, this is the else statement, and then we are going to return. So this is kind of the entire print. So I'm going to save this, and let me clear the console, and let's run it. Okay, so let's test with a value of say 8. Can be, so sorry. Let me here since the number is changing, I'm not able to print it properly. So what I'm going to do is change this value right at the beginning, int input equals to num. So what I'm going to do is like I save the value which the user is inputting, so that I can later on print it. Otherwise it's changing it, right? So I'm just saving it, that's why. And now I'll also keep it input. Otherwise the num itself is continuously changes. So this is it. So let me save it and compile it once again, and let's test now. So let's test 5. So it cannot be expressed. So now if I try this again, let's test it with 8. So it can be expressed as a power of 2, right? So now let's try all the test cases which has been given in the code. So let's see. So one is 6572. Okay. So let's see if what works with 6572. Let's run the code. 672, I think this is it. It cannot be expressed as a power of 2, and let's see what's the answer says in here. Cannot be expressed as a power of 2, so 1024 can be 8 and 46. So 1024, 8 and 46. So these are the numbers which we will be testing. So let's see. 1024 can be expressed. Great. 8 we have already tested, but let's just, for the sake of this, we'll test it once again. And the final one, what was the final one? I have forgotten. Let me go back. So it's 46. So obviously 46 is divisible by 2, but it's not can be expressed as a power of 2, right? So it cannot be expressed as a power of 2. So this is, I guess, the program is working. And if you now at this point have any questions regarding this, then please feel free to ask me. I'm also taking a look at the chat. I'm happy to go through and walk you through this again if you are interested. Otherwise, I'll open the debugger and just show you how things are happening for just one specific set of input. So if you all have any questions, then please ask right now. Any of you, are there any questions? Okay, if not, let me then go back to here is my chat window. I don't see any questions in the chat. So then let me go back and I'll just walk you through the debugger just to give you a good proper sense of what's going on in here. So let me put in a breakpoint in here. Right. So now let's try to debug this code. Right. Okay. So it's for asks me for a number. So let's see. This is my debugger, which is open. So let's try with the number of 8, which is a relatively small number, so that it's easy for me to just step through the code to show you what's happening. So let's see. So my code is now here. As you see, flag is 0, input it is 8, num is 8, val is 2, because all these are the variables which are set in here, and that is what you can see, right? So these are the local variables, and now I'm at line 10. So now what I'm going to do is now step one by one. So now num is not equals to 1. So what's the value of num now? Then the value of num is 8, which is what we have entered, and it's not equals to 1. This is true. So I go inside the while loop. So now what's happening, you see num percentage val. So it's num modulo val. So you divide 8 by 2 and you find the modulus. So 8 is divisible by 2, so obviously the modulus is 0. So your flag so this condition is false because it's 0 is not equals to 0 is false, right? So you don't go into the for loop. You come here, you skip through the for loop, and you see num equals to num divided by val. So you divide it by val, so what you have is 4, right? So now let's see the num. Take a look at in here. Your num was 8, as you can see in here. So now I have not executed this line. So now I'm going to execute this line, and you see the num changed. It got changed to 4, right? So now again we check if num. So now this is the end of the while loop. We again go back, and now we are at line 10. We check if the num is not equals to 1. So this is true. So I once again go into the val, and now you see num percentage val not equals to 0. So now I divide 4 by 2, so that again gives you, me a remainder which is 0. So it's again false. So I go in here. Again, I divide it by 4. So keep a look eye on this. It's 4. When I divide it by 2, it becomes 2. Changes to 2. Go back. It's not equals to 1. Come in once again. Now what I do in here, it's again gives a remainder of 0, the modulo operation, and therefore I go in here, I divide it again. So now it's 2, so it's 2 over 2, so it is now divided by 2. So now what you will have is 1. So now you see the num has changed to 1, and so now once it's 1, when we go back, it's not equals to 1. So now the while loop is false because it's equals to 1. So we come out of the while loop. And now here I see that the flag has been 0 and it remains 0. So then what would happen is that we will just print this, that the number can be expressed as a power of 2. And hence we show that, as you can see, the number can be expressed as the power of 2 gets printed out. And I come at the end and return. So this is basically the idea. And now, once again, I'll debug this program, but this time we will put in a number which is not divisible, which is not a power of 2. Say 6 and say see what is happening to give you a clear idea. So I'll once again debug it, and let's see. So now what I'll do is I put in a number of 6. So now you see my input is 6, num is 6, val is 2, and flag is 0. I'm at line 10. So this is where I've bricked the program, right? So now I'm going in because num is not equals to 1. Again, the while loop is true. I go inside, and now 6 is divided by 2. So when you divide 6 by 2, the modulus of it, or the remainder of it, is 0. So again, I go in here, and now I divide by 2, right? So 6 divided by 2 gives you 3. So keep an eye on this. You see that the num is 6 in here, as you can see in here. So now, as soon as I'm going to execute line number 14, you will see this is will change to 3. Right. Now you see that this has changed to 3. Fair enough. So now I go back to the line 10 where I again check it's not equals to 1. So this is again true. Come in, and now I divide it by val. So when you divide 3 by 2, the remainder that's left is 1. So this is the time when the if condition is satisfied. So you go in, and now you see that the flag, which was 0 now, has been set. So now the flag has been set to 1, which was 0 before. So now I again divide num by val, you see, because now I divide 3 by 2. So what I will be left with is 1. Keep an eye on num, which is 3. And now it changes to 1 as soon as line 14 gets executed. I go back in here, and you see what I put in here is that num not equals to 1. So this is now true. Num is obviously not equals to 1 right now. So I go out of the while loop, and now if flag equals to 0, but you see that the flag has now been set to 1. So the else block is going to get executed, which will say that this number cannot be expressed as a power of 2. And this is the end of the code. As you can see, this is getting printed. So I'll just stop with the debugger. And this is how the logic is flowing. I hope this is clear to all of you that how this code has been written and what is the flow of logic. If not, please feel free to ask me. Okay, assuming that this has been fine for you, then I'll just move on. Let me see if there is any more questions from anyone in the chat. No, I don't see any questions, so I will just move on to the next question of the week. So as you can see, this is the next program, which asks like write a C program to find the sum of the following series. Take the value of n, which is as the input, and you just do this. So it's 1 plus 1 by 2 plus 1 by 3 plus 1 by 4, and you go to 1 by n. So just a random info. This is something called a harmonic series. So you just print the sum of all these things in harmonic progression and till n, right? So, and now this is the test case where you just ask me to test it, right? So this is fairly simple. This was actually the previous code was a bit difficult. This is completely my opinion, but to me it seemed like the previous code was a bit more difficult than this. So now let's again do the same thing. And what are the things that we are going to need here? We are going to take the num from the user, and we don't need any of these. Rather, we would need a double, right? Because it's a sum which we are going to find out. So I'll do a double sum, right? In fact, let's try a float, because we don't need so many precision. So I think the float is also good enough. So I'll just enter the number, and now I'll start a for loop, right? So I'll do for starting the for loop, one would need an iterator through which one would iterate. So I'll do an int I, and now I do a for I equals to 1. I less than num I plus plus, and I will sum this. Sum equals 2, and initially I'll just initialize sum with a 0. The sum gets initialized with 0, and now I do a sum plus equals to 1 by I. And remember this 1.0, the reason this 0.0 is needed, it is extremely important because if you do this, then what will happen is, since I is an integer, 1 by I will be remaining will become an integer. So for everything like 2, when I equals to 2 or 3, so when I equals to 2, say this will be 1 by 2. And if you do not, if you have defined this as an integer, then this will give you 0, because 1 by 2 is 0.5, but being an integer, your and everything after the decimal place will be ignored, so it will give you a value of 0. So to have the things done in decimal, this point is very important, and you need this point. So you have to give it 1.0 and not 1. This is quite interesting and quite important in the context of C programming language, and something that you should always keep in mind. And there are, if you are a new programmer and starting out, this is one of the things which people generally do a mistake. So this is kind of a caution that I want to give you, that you have to give it as a 1.0 and not 1. And I'll also show you what will happen in while doing the code, that if you had changed this from 1.0 to 1, what is the problem that you will have. Anyways, after I have done this, I'll have the final thing. The sum of the series is the sum. So I'm just displaying the sum, and I'll display till how many decimal places. Let's see what the program asks me to do. Here you see there are 2 decimal places. These are the test cases, 5.19. So I'll just therefore choose just 2 decimal places to show. So for that, I'll just do a 0.2f, right? And this is basically the end of the code. And let's run this, and then we will also carefully look at debugging and other stuffs as well. So let me run this code. Okay, so enter a number. Let's see what are the number that are for the test case. It's 100. With 100, it says that I'll get 5.19. So let's test that. Let me do 100. And yes, 5.18. So I think this is just a rounding off thing that's going on in here, but this is very close. So I think we are good. Let's have more decimal places just to see whether this is some kind of an error or what is happening. Let's see, 100, 5.177. So yeah, 5.18. I don't know why it's asking it to be 5.19, but I think this is pretty close, so we can get away with it, right? Let's go back and let's have the next one, which is 26 and 50. So with 20, so I'll keep this in here and keep this thing in here so that it's easy for me to just show you what's going on. Let's see. Okay. So the next one is 20. So let's see, 20, it's 3.548 and it's 3.6. So yes, I think this is also pretty close. Then let's go to the next one. Let me try this at double and see if changing it to double changes this or not, but I don't think that is the matter in here. It's just some round of errors which are creeping up. So now let's change this to 6. So 2.83, 2.28, and it's 2.45, right? Okay, so I think I have got spotted it. So it's num less than or equals to, because it goes till n, and I have less than n. Okay, I think I now know exactly what the error was previously. So I think now this is good. This will be good. Right. Let's see. Let's try 100, and let me do this 0.2f instead of 0.3 now. And let me save this. Sorry. Let's see. Less than or equals to num. Problem happening here. Show errors. Okay, let's see. Errors which I'm encountering. Let's see. Let me run this. What's happening in here? Let me see. There is some error which I'm encountering, which I am not able to figure out what's happening. So let me check once again. Let's see. Run file. Show errors. Sorry for the delay. There's some error which is going on. Let me try to figure this out. Okay. Let me close the VS Code and restart this if some problem is happening in here. And okay, I think there was some error, so I just restarted everything and things seem to be working fine. So let me do this. So as I was saying, there was an error in here in the code itself. I forgot to have this going till num, right? So it was less than num, so that's why it was a little bit off. So I think now this is going to work fine. So let me let's test this. So enter a number. Okay. So where was I? Not sorry. This one. Let's see. So it's with 100 that I should expect a result of 5.19. So let's see. Yes, I get a result of 5.19. And now let's test the next one. With 20, I get a result of 3.6. So let me run this once again. With 20, I get something like a 3.60. And then the next one with 6, I would expect a 2.45. So let's try that. 6, yes, I get something like a 2.45. And let's try the next one. 50. So let's try this. So I have a 4.5, and as you can see here, let's see here with 50, you see that the sum of the series is 4.5. So you see now all the test cases are matching to the required precision. The previously, I apologize for the error which I had done in the code. I forgot that equals to, and what this was doing is going till n minus 1 and not till n, because you start with 1 and you have to go till n and not n minus 1, right? And you see there will also be another problem which I was talking about, like if you do a 1 by I, then everything will be 0, right? Because like except for the first number, everything will be 0, and so this will always be giving you 1 in most cases. So let's try that as well. Uh, let's try 100. So you see, you get 1. So every time you'll get 1, and the reason for this is that if you if you have just 1, then it's just a decimal. The result will be in decimal form. And if the result is in decimal form, then 1 by 2, 1 by 3, which of all of which will be like 0.5 or 0.33 respectively, are going to be evaluated as 0, because everything after the decimal point will be ignored. And so it is very crucial for you to have 1.0. So Let me also then try the debugger and just to give you a feeling of what's happening, and then we can move on to the next code. So let me try to debug this code. Sorry, I've forgotten to set in a breakpoint. Okay, so as you can see, I have put in num, and rather I would say I would put in a breakpoint in here, get rid of the breakpoint, and just take this, right? So enter a number. So let's say, let me enter a very small number. Let's say I enter 5. So I go in here, right? So I is going to start from I now has some random value, which is because of int I, but it will start from 1. So as soon as I go inside the for loop, you see I gets changed to 1. So now the value of I is 1 and sum is 0, because that's how I initialize the sum. I go in, so I do a 1 by I, so it's now 1 by 1. So now sum gets changed to 1. As you can see in here, the sum is getting changed. I go back. Now I is going to, as it goes inside the for loop, I is going to increase to 2, and now it's going 1 by 2. So you see it's 1 by 2. So it's now the sum gets updated by, previously it was 1. So with 1 by 2 is 0.5. So 0.5 gets added. And now you go in and you keep on doing this unless now the value of I is 4. I go in once again. Now the value of I is 5. I do a 1 by 5. And once this is done, previously it was I less than. So it was this loop, this last loop was not getting executed. The last iteration, to be specific, was not getting executed. So that's why I was having the error. And once again, sorry for that. So if you go in here, now I is 6, so I is 5. So now as you go in, I become 6 and you just come out, right? Because now I plus plus becomes 6, and so you come out. And now here you give the sum of the series is sum. This is just the print statement, as you know. As I execute it, this gets printed, so you get a 2.28, right? So this is how it works. So I will stop the debugger, do a 1 in here just to give you a demo of what's happening when you just give a 1, and start to debug my code once again. So let's debug. And this time, let's give it a 3, value of 3, right? I go in, right? So for the first time I go in, the value of I is 1. So it's 1 by I, so it's 1 by 1, so no problem. The sum of value of sum is changed to 1, right? But the next time when I go in, I do this, the value of I is 2, and now 1 by 2 is going to give you 0.5. But since it's 1 by, the everything after the point will be ignored, so 1 by 2 is actually going to give you 0. So 1 plus 0 is going to remain as 1. So you see that the value of sum remained unchanged. So will be the next time the value of this sum remains unchanged, and therefore incorrectly you get something as the sum of the series is 1.0, whereas you should have gotten it should be 1.83 or something. So which, let's see, which you will only get when you do this. And let me stop the code. Now let's just run it. Let's put in 3. Sorry. And now once you execute it, you have this, and you have this 1.83. This is exactly what you are going to get. And let me now stop the code. And as you see, this is what I was talking. Either you give 1 point or 1.0, anything. What this would mean is that then the division will be in floating points rather than integers. And this is one of the common mistakes which people do. And please be aware when you are writing the code and dealing with these divisions, especially that you include the point and ensure that it's floating point numbers. Okay. So now, if there are any questions in here, I'm just going to also briefly check the chat box. If there are any questions in here, please ask. Okay. You mean the previous one? By question 3, you mean the previous question where we discussed? Okay, okay. Yeah, sure, sure. I'm going to discuss that once again. the only problem I think is I have most likely remove the code. So I think what I'll do is there is one sample. This is not exactly the code which I wrote because I've just removed that code and can't go back right away. So it will take some time. So what I'll do is that I will just go through the, let me see. I'll just go through the code that's written in here just to, this is similar but not exactly the same which I wrote. But this is a similar code and I'll just go through here just for the sake of time because I've deleted the previous code during this. And by the way, this session is also recorded. So the recording is there. You can also go up and just to see the exact code where I have discussed this and went through the debugger as well. So let me try this once again, try to write it. If it takes a lot of time, then I'll just go back and refer to the code which is already there. Okay. So I will just do int. So I'm just going through the previous code once again. I understand that the previous code is a bit tricky and complicated, so it might take a little bit time for you to understand. But I'm happy to just do that once again. Sorry, please bear with me because I have to again write the code once again. I hope this is not much of a problem to you, to others. So now I do a while loop. So I do a int. I had a flag, which is this may not be the entirely the same flow of code which I had written, but I hope this will be similar to that. So let's see. Percentage 2 equals 0. Here I am. So now I'll do this. Not this, but first I check it is equals to 1 or not. So this is the first check I have to do is num not equals to 1. Then I do this. Now, once I go in, I do a if num. Now I'm going to do a modulus check. Not equals to 0. I do a flag equals to 1. And I can even give a break in here because I don't need to continue keep on checking, right? And now I do a num equals to num by this, right? And now I come out of this and I do a print f. The number input is be expressed of percentage d. So let me keep it general. So I'll just do int val equals to 2. So just to keep this general, so I'll just divide it by val, right? And this is it. And I'll just do a /n just to have a new line in here. So I think the previous code was very similar to this, but not exactly this. And but you'll get the idea of what I want to do. So let's try to run this code once again. Stop, not debug, but run it actually. So let's give 8. Can be expressed as a power of 2. I'm just checking whether the code is properly running as expected. 6. Sorry, I have just forgot the if thing. Yeah, if flag equals to 0, then this number can be expressed as a power of 2. Else The number cannot be expressed as a power of 2. Let me give a tab. Okay, so now let's see. Let's give 8 can be expressed as a power of 2. Sorry, I missed the cannot thing. I'm just trying to do this in a hurry because I've already discussed this, and which is what? Sorry. Oh, again, the same problem. Let's put a stop in here and let me run this code. Yes. So I give it a value of 8, can be expressed as a power of 2. Let me run this. 6 not be expressed as a power of 2. Okay. Now the code is running fine as expected. So let me run the debugger and show you what's happening. So I'll try value of 8 just to get you. I see someone has asked something in the chat. Okay. Yeah. So let's see. So I'll try the debugger and I'll run the debugger and you see. Asks for a number. So let me just put in a number in here. Let me put in 8. So that's what we will be checking first. So now we are at line 10 and the value which we have put in is 8 and the flag is 0. So we will go in here and now you see that I'll divide. So the while loop is satisfied because 8 is not equals to 1. So this is true. I go in, I divide it by the val, which is 2 in here. So divide 8 divided by 2 and I take the remainder of it. So this is 0. So it's not equals to 0 is false. So I'm inside and now I divide it by 2 once again. So 8, keep a look at the value num in here, which is 8. So now as soon as I execute line number 15, 8 will change to 4 because I have divided by 2. I go back in here and now once again I check num 4, which is not equals to 1. So this is true. I go in. Again, I find out the modulus or the remainder of this thing. So I do 4 divided by 2 and find the remainder of it. And this is again 0. So it's the if condition is not satisfied, go out. Again divided by 2. Also I have 2 in here. Come in here. 2 is not equals to 1. Once again go in. Check this. This is now again the remainder is 0 because 2 is divisible by 2. Come out, divided by 2. So what I have is 1 now. I am here now while. Now the while condition is false because num is equals to 1. So I come out and flag remains 0. And as soon as the flag remains 0, then what this means is that I've kept on I have a number and I kept on dividing it by 2 and until I get 1. And as I keep on dividing it by 2 and at the end I got 1, that this would mean that this number can be expressed as a power of 2, right? Have I had kept on dividing it by 2 and at the end I didn't get 1, I have gotten something which is different, then the flag will be set to 1. So now I go in here and I express that, yeah, it can be expressed as a power of 2, right? So I stop this code. Now I'll try once again with a number which cannot be expressed as a power of 2 with the debugger. So let me do that once again. Let me put in, say, as the last time I was using, I think I was using 6. So let me use that example once again. As you can see, the num is 6 here. So I just go in here and try to divide 6 by 2 and see the remainder, which is 0. So obviously this is not satisfied. I come out and now I divide num by 2. So now it's divided by 2 again. And this needs to be changed to val actually because to make this general. Sorry, let's do this once again. And let's try to debug this. Let's try 6 in here. So I have 6. So come in and now 6. The first time it's not satisfied. So I have 6 divided by 2. So 6 divided by 2 is 3. So keep a look at num, which is 6 right now. And as soon as I'm going to start with the value, start evaluating the line number 15, it will change to 3. As you can see, it has changed to 3. I go back. 3 is not equals to 1. So this is true. I go in. I check once again. Percentage val not equals to 0. So this is true. Then now what will happen is I'm doing 3, which is divided by 2, and 3 is not divisible by 2, right? So the remainder is 1. So now it is that this is going to get satisfied. So I will go inside. So now this is, you see that the flag is set to 1. And as soon as the flag gets set to 1, I know that this number cannot be expressed. I do not proceed any further, come out, and flag is not 0. So now I'm going to the if statement. And here I see that the number cannot be expressed as the power of 2. So that is what I print. And this is it. This is the end of the code. And I guess this explains your doubt. If not, then please feel free to question me. To use sqrt, we have to include math.h or math.lib. So to include sqrt, all you have to do is you do a hash include math.h. So it's a header file which needs to be done. So the thing is math.h. So this is the thing I put in on the chat. So you have to do a hash include math.h to use the math library, and sqrt is one of the functions which is available as a part of the math header file. So you have to use a math.h. And just a side note that if you are compiling in a Linux environment, I'm using Windows. If you are compiling on a Linux environment, then while you are compiling, you have to use up the -lm flag for using the math library and compiling the code so that the code runs. So what do I mean by that? Say you have a code which is called some program.c. Then to have your code compiled with the math library, and you are using GCC, for example, then what you need to do is do a GCC and say your name of the code is name of the program is some mathprog. So you just do mathprog.c. So this is the program that you want to compile. Output is the output of your program, the executable file which the C generates, which is what you want to execute. So the name of the file is say mathprog. So you just do this, but at the end you have to add this -lm, and this is needed for having a math compiling with the math library. And this is all you need. So I'm just putting it in the chat in here. This -lm flag is needed for using the math library. And then you obviously have math.h included. This is for GCC. If you are using Intel, then you don't need this. This is for GNU-C compiler, which is one of the most popular compilers which people use, especially in a Linux environment. And then you need this -lm. But if you are using an Intel compiler, then as far as I know, most likely you won't need this -lm flag. So this is for using the math library. Okay, so this was a bit of a digression. So I'll just move on to the last question that we would be discussing in today's session. So let's go to that. Okay, so write a C program to print a pyramid up to the nth row. So you start with 7. If you have 7, so you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You start with printing 7 pyramids and then 6, 5. So you go till 1. So what we will be doing now here is printing these pyramids, inverted pyramids to be sure, to be clear. And then we will also do the reverse one. So it's like a triangle which is starting from 1 and goes till 7, but now we will do this inverted one, and then we will do the other one as well. Okay, so let's try to write this code. I hope this question is clear, and then we'll just put in the number, and then I'll choose int I. So this is an integer, and then I'll just start the for loop. So let's see how I want to do it. I will start from the number which the user is putting in, and I will go till this is equals to 1, right? And I will do a I minus minus, right? So I'll just decreasing it, and I'll do, right? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to print these many number of stars. So for that, I would need another for loop. So this is kind of an example of a nested for loop, right? So now I need another variable. So I'll put in a j in here, and here let's have that. So I'll have j, right, which starts from 0. So j less than I and j plus plus, right? So these are the number of stars that I'm going to print, and at the end, I'm just going to have a new line. So what then now this is going to do is now say my I is 7, so it starts with 7. So first value is 7, so it goes from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? So it prints all the numbers till 6, and so it will from 0 to 6. So it is going to print 7 stars, and after 7 stars are printed, it's going to go to the new line, come back. Now the value of I is 6. So now this part, which is from line 9 to line 10, line 11, is going to print 6 stars, then a new line, and then this goes in a loop, right? So let's run this code, and then we will use the debugger to make this more clear that why this is happening. Okay, so let me run this. So let's run. Okay, so let's try this number 7. Let's see. Why didn't I get any prints? Probably I forgot. I equals to num, I less than or sorry, I greater than or equals to 1. So this will go on till I is greater than or equals to 1, and I, okay. So now let's run this. Enter a number 7. Okay, so you see, let me make this a bit larger for you to see. So you have see I start with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I start with 7 stars and go till 1 star. So this is what's happening in here. And now let's walk you through the code, like what is happening, and then we can discuss. But before that, let's also try other test cases. We have 4, 5, and 3, right? So let's see. Let me go back to VS Code and run this once again. 7, so let's see 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you start with 5. Then we will have 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So you start with 4. You have 3 star, 2 star, and 1 star. Okay, so this is working fine. So now I'll debug this with the value of 3, just to show you what's going on under the hood. So let's start the code by setting a breakpoint at line number 8, where the for loop starts, and I'll just start a debugger. Okay, so let's start with 3. So now I'm at line number 8. I and j, you see the values are nonsense values because the code has, the for loop has not started. Once the for loop is going to start, this is going to get, I is going to get the value of 3, and once line 9 is going to get executed for the first time, j is also going to get the value of 0, right? So let's start this. Okay, so you see I got changed to a proper value, which is the value 3. And now let's go to j. So now j is now going to get the value of 0, and now j is going to run till 3. So run till 2 actually. So j less than I. So for 0, so j is 0. You see the j value of j is 0. So I'm going to print a star, and you see the 1 star got printed in here. Here you can see 1 star got printed. Go back to this loop. Now the value of j is 0. So now I go inside the for loop because, and the value of j now changes to 1, right? As the value of j changes to 1, j is still less than I because the value of I is 3, right? So I print this once again, and you see another star got printed in here. I go back. Now the value of j is going to change from 1 to 2, and now 2 is also less than 3. So I'm going to go in here and print this once again, right? And now I'm going in again. So now you see the value of j is 3, and 3 is not less than 3. So now the for loop didn't continue, and I came out of the for loop and went to the outer for loop. So which is this one where I have a /n. So with /n, you see the cursor in here, as you can see by my pointer that I'm pointing in here, and the cursor is here. And now if I /n, now the cursor moves to the next line. Now in this line, I go back, and you see the value of I, which is 3, which I've started with. As I go and print this for loop, the value of I gets changed to 2. And now 2 is greater than or equals to 1, which is true. So I'm still inside the for loop. And now again, j starts with 0, and j 0 is less than obviously 2. So I go in, print this star, and now j becomes 0, right? And now with the execution of this line, j changes to 1, and now 1 is also less than 2, right? So I'm again inside the line 10 where I print another one. I come in here, and here I compare again. where 1 will now j will going to change to 2, and 2 is not less than 2, so I come out of the for loop. In the inner for loop, I again have a new line. I go to here. So now the num is going to now get not num, but I is now going to get changed to 1, right? And 1 is greater than or equals to 1. So this is true once again. So I come in here once again, and here now j starts with 0, and obviously 0 is less than 1. So I go in, print 1 star, come back in here, and you see now j is going to change to 1, and 1 is obviously not less than 1. So now the for loop is not going to get executed. The only one now that's going to execute it is the new line, which is in the outer for loop. I come in here, I go back, and now I, which was initially, which was here right now, 1 is now going to change to 0, and then it's 0 is not greater than or equals to 1. So I come out of this for loop as well, and now I return. And this is the end of the code, and you see there are 3 stars which are getting printed initially, then 2 stars, and then 1 star. So this is the mainly the flow of logic in the code. Yes, I was actually explaining how both the loop is working in here. So can you confirm, Nitish, that whether you are able to understand this or not? Because now I'll also be going to a new variant of this code where I'm going to print this was an inverted triangle. I'm not going to now going to print triangle which is not inverted but a normal triangle. So are you able to understand what I am trying to explain in here? Otherwise, okay, great, great, great. That's good news. Great. Okay, so then I am just going to change this a little bit here and there so that now the triangle gets inverted. So to do that, instead of starting with the large number, I will start with a small number, right? Because I will want to start with 1, and I'll want to go till the number which I'm entering. So less than or equals to num, right? And I want to do an I++, right? Now j is then going to start with, say, again, 0, and j has to go, so it is going to just for the first time print 1, and then 2 stars, then 3 stars, and like that. So then this remains the same, but it's less than I. So initially I started with 7, but now I is going to start with 1, right? So this is it, and let's see. Let me save this. Let's run the code. So let's try 3, and you see here the same thing. Now it got inverted because now instead of I starting from the largest value, I now starts with the smallest value. While inside I controls how many stars are going to get printed in every line, and the outer for loop controls from how many stars you want to start with. Like the first line is going to have how many stars, and the second line is going to control how many stars, and the second for loop just prints the stars. So let's try a larger number just to get a clear idea of what's happening. So let's try 5, and you see you have 5. The last one is 5. So now you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then 1, 2, 3, 4. Then 1, 2, 3. Then 1, 2, and 1. Right? So this is how things are going to get printed, and this is how this code works. And I hope this is clear to you all, right? Not, then please, this is the time that when you can ask questions, and I will try my best to clear it up for you. So are there any questions regarding this? Okay, since there are no questions, I think that this was pretty clear to everyone. And but You can also not only related to this specific questions that I have discussed, but anything related to C language or something which we have covered in previous courses, not previous courses, excuse me, for in the previous sessions, then please feel free to ask me right away. I would be happy to answer those as well. Do any of you have any questions? Are there any questions? I guess not. Then I am going to bring this session to an end. And I thank you all for your time and patience in listening to this. And I hope I have been able to address the basic concepts of writing C code and using loops, while loop and for loop to be specific. And I have also demonstrated a few of the examples where we are using loops to solve some of the problems. And I hope this is clear to you, and this makes you well equipped to write C codes in future, and also in your exams, which would be based on these types of questions which I have discussed. And on that note, I thank you all for listening, and thank you for your time and patience. Good evening to everyone if you are in India, and bye then. Have a nice weekend. And I'll stop sharing my screen.